Picture this: 3 in the morning, you can't sleep, and suddenly you're on your feet scrubbing the kitchen counter. Sounds strange? Psychologists say it isn't. When life feels like it's slipping out of your hands reach for a cloth and a bucket instead. It's not a whim, and it's not procrastination in disguise. It's an ancient survival response, one that switches on exactly when everything else feels like chaos. Today, we're going to find out why, for some people, cleaning works better than a therapy session. You've probably experienced this yourself. You get bad news, your relationship falls apart, work spirals out of control, and instead of collapsing on the couch, you find yourself reorganizing your closet at midnight, throwing out old receipts, scrubbing a bathtub that was already clean. Friends might call it a weird coping mechanism. Some call it control freak behavior. But there's a reason your brain does this, and it's older than psychology itself. The reason begins with how your brain responds to uncertainty. Your brain hates uncertainty. Not dislikes, hates. In the same visceral way it hates physical pain. Studies on the brain's threat response system show that ambiguous, uncontrollable situations activate the same regions as actual danger. Your body doesn't know the difference between "I might lose my job" and "there's a wolf outside the cave." Both feel like threats. Both trigger a stress response. And when the threat is abstract, when there's no wolf to fight and no cave to defend, the body still needs somewhere to put that energy. And that's why many people start cleaning. It's one of the few stress responses that's always available, always safe, and always effective. You can't fix your parents' divorce. You can't undo a bad diagnosis. You can't control whether you get the promotion. But you can absolutely control whether that shelf is dusty or not. And your brain, desperate for any evidence that you still have power over something, grabs onto that shelf like a lifeline. Research has shown that the physical act of imposing order, wiping, sorting, and straightening, produces a measurable drop in cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. In other words, cleaning isn't just a distraction from anxiety, it's a biological off switch for it. But not everyone reacts the same way. Some people clean under stress, while others shut down completely. Why does one person handle a crisis by binging Netflix, while another reorganizes their entire kitchen at 2 a.m.? The answer isn't really about cleanliness at all. It's about something much deeper: how a person's nervous system was built to handle chaos in the first place. One of the best explanations comes from a psychological concept called the locus of control. It's a simple idea with huge consequences. Some people, when things go wrong, instinctively believe they can influence the outcome. Others believe the outcome is just going to happen to them, no matter what they do. And this single belief, control versus no control, shapes almost everything about how a person handles stress, including whether they reach for a mop. People with a strong internal locus of control are the ones most likely to clean when anxious. Not because cleaning solves the actual problem, but because it proves, physically and immediately, that action still works. Wipe a counter and it gets clean. Fold a pile of laundry and it becomes a neat stack. Every small task completed sends a signal to the brain. Cause and effect still exists. You are not powerless. And that signal, repeated enough times in a short window, can pull a panicking mind back from the edge. For many people, this habit begins much earlier than they realize. Many people who turn to cleaning under stress grew up in homes where emotional chaos was common. Unpredictable moods, financial instability, conflict that came without warning. In those environments, a child quickly learns that people and circumstances can't always be controlled, but objects can. A messy room can always be made tidy. A drawer can always be organized. For a child with no power over the adults around them, tidying became one of the only reliable ways to create a small, safe, orderly world. That habit doesn't disappear in adulthood. It just gets triggered by new kinds of stress. But this coping strategy has another side. This same mechanism, so healthy in moderate amounts, can tip into something else entirely. Psychologists distinguish between what's sometimes called restorative cleaning and compulsive cleaning. Restorative cleaning is the version we've been describing, a short burst of order making that calms the nervous system and then fades once the task is done. It's adaptive. It works. But compulsive cleaning is different. It doesn't fade. It doesn't satisfy. The person cleans, feels a flicker of relief, and then almost immediately the anxiety creeps back. So they clean again and again. What started as a coping tool turns into a loop that never actually resolved the underlying fear, because the fear was never really about mess in the first place. This is where cleaning intersects with something clinicians see in certain anxiety disorders and, in more extreme cases, obsessive-compulsive patterns. The line between I clean because it calms me and I clean because I cannot tolerate the anxiety if I don't can be a thin one. And the difference often isn't visible from the outside. Both people might be scrubbing the same countertop. The difference is what's happening internally. One person walks away feeling lighter, done, at peace. The other walks away already scanning the room for the next thing that's slightly out of place. The good news is that for most people, cleaning remains a healthy coping strategy. The key is knowing when it helps and when it starts controlling you instead. It can, but only if you use it intentionally. Understanding what's happening in your brain makes the difference between using cleaning as a healthy coping strategy and relying on it without realizing why you're doing it. Not every type of cleaning affects your brain in the same way. Randomly wandering around wiping surfaces doesn't calm the nervous system nearly as well as cleaning with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Psychologists who study behavioral rituals point out that the brain responds powerfully to tasks with defined boundaries: a start, a sequence of steps, and a visible finish. That's why making a bed works better than tidying up in general. A made bed has a clear endpoint. Your brain can register done, and that registration itself is part of the calming effect. Vague, open-ended tasks, on the other hand, can actually feed anxiety rather than soothe it, because there's no finish line to signal safety. This is also why so many people gravitate toward the same specific tasks when they're overwhelmed. Washing dishes, folding laundry, wiping down a kitchen. These aren't random choices. They're short, repetitive, physically rhythmic, and they end quickly. Repetitive motion, in particular, has a documented calming effect on the nervous system, similar to what's seen in other rhythmic behaviors like rocking or walking. Your hands move in the same pattern again and again, and that rhythm alone can lower physiological arousal, heart rate, muscle tension, even breathing rate, independent of whether the room actually needed cleaning in the first place. But cleaning does something else that matters just as much. It changes where your attention goes. Anxiety thrives on abstraction, on spiraling thoughts about things that haven't happened yet or can't be changed. Cleaning forces attention into the present, into a physical task directly in front of you. This is close to what mindfulness practices are trying to achieve deliberately, except cleaning does it almost by accident. You can't simultaneously worry about a hypothetical future and carefully wipe a specific spot on the counter. The task pulls your attention out of the spiral and anchors it in something immediate, physical, and finishable. If you want to use cleaning to reduce stress, keep it simple. When you feel that surge of helplessness, choose one small, contained task. Not clean the house. That's too vague, too big, and it can actually make things worse. Something like clear this one desk or wash these dishes. Let the boundaries of the task do the psychological work. Do it, notice it end, and then stop. That last part matters most. The people who benefit from this the way we've been describing are the ones who let the task end and let the calm settle in. The people who spiral into compulsion are the ones who can't let it end, who finish one task and immediately need another, because the relief never quite lands. When you put all of this together, something becomes clear. If a simple, repetitive, boundaried task can genuinely shift your nervous system out of a stress state, not as a metaphor, but as a measurable biological process, then the instinct to clean when your life feels chaotic isn't a quirk. It's not something to be embarrassed about, and it's not avoidance, as some might assume. In the right amount, it might be one of the most efficient, accessible tools the human mind has for handling what it cannot otherwise control. Now go back to that moment in the kitchen. 3 in the morning, sleep won't come, and you're standing in the kitchen with a cloth in your hand, scrubbing a counter that wasn't even that dirty to begin with. What felt like a strange habit suddenly makes sense. This isn't your mind malfunctioning, it's your mind doing exactly what it was built to do, searching for something, anything it can still control, and finding it in the simplest place possible, a surface that responds instantly to your effort. Everything we've discussed comes down to this. Chaos is unbearable to the human brain, but chaos with a fix is bearable. And most of the chaos we face, grief, uncertainty, conflict, fear about the future, doesn't come with a fix. Cleaning does. It's small, it's immediate, and it's always within reach. That's not a coincidence. It's exactly why, across cultures and across centuries, people in crisis have gravitated toward the same instinct. Restore order somewhere, anywhere, when the rest of life refuses to cooperate. Like any coping strategy, this one has limits. The same mechanism that calms one person can trap another in an endless loop, chasing a relief that never fully arrives. The difference isn't the cleaning itself. It's whether the task has a finish line, and whether you're able to stop once you reach it. Used well, it's one of the simplest tools available for regulating a mind that feels like it's spinning out. Used without awareness, it can become the very anxiety it was meant to soothe. So the next time you catch yourself reorganizing a drawer at midnight for no clear reason, or scrubbing a countertop after a hard day, don't brush it off as a strange habit. Instead of wondering why you suddenly felt the urge to clean, remember what your brain was trying to do. It wasn't trying to create a perfect home, it was trying to create a small sense of control in a moment that felt uncertain.